Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about Mythgraven Blade. We're going to be talking about when you would use it, some misconceptions about it, and we're going to talk about it in comparison to some other weapons. So let's go ahead and dig in. Now, Mythgraven Blade is one of those weapons that a lot of people seemingly just do not understand. And of course, that's going to be because it has the decreased AP consumption on it. And so a lot of people are saying, well, I would never use that. I'm going to use an elemental blade. You know, they're saying, well, I would never use this. I'm going to use spine blade if I'm going into PvP, right? Like, people are kind of on both sides saying, you know, I'm not really going to use this. And the question is, will you ever use this? Is this an important piece of gear? And my answer is absolutely. I think, you know, we quite often think about dealing the maximum amount of damage. We quite often think about, you know, dealing damage to the opponent, right? In which case, you know, we would want spine blade, or if we're in PvE, we would want an elemental weapon. But we don't think about sustainable long-term damage. Very similar to Mythgraven Blade is the 3 stars, and a lot of different units can equip 3 stars, but most notably, Elena can equip 3 stars. And what 3 stars does for Elena is very similar to what Mythgraven Blade can do for other units that can equip it. It's going to add sustain to those units for long, durable fights, right? We're talking fights that are going to take, you know, 18 turns of very difficult PvE content for you to solo. These are going to be fights like raid reruns, right? When raids return and you're doing the multi-battles and you're trying to solo the multi-battles with them. This is going to be raid content where maybe you're trying to run a solo composition, you're popping bells, but you're still running out of AP around turn 15 and 16. That's where this blade is going to save you. Instead of melee attacking, you're going to be able to get that additional 2 or 3 hits in, which could potentially kill the boss. That is where this blade shines. And of course, if you are a newer player that doesn't have access to spine blade right away, doesn't have access to all the elemental blades, or maybe you're a mid-tier player who came in and for some reason you don't have Sword of Light, right? You don't have Sword of Light. This would be a great substitute, right? Because it has high slash attack. Maybe you don't have spine blade, or maybe you only have 1 spine blade and 2 sword users. This is of course going to be a great substitute. Now, another factor a lot of people are not talking about with Mythgraven Blade is going to be the fact that we do have double VCs coming. And I think this is one of those situations that we just are not seeing on the global side yet. But the damage capability of our units with double VCs coming is going to increase substantially in both PvE content and PvP content, right? Mostly though, PvE content, because we're going to be going up against monsters with kind of the same stats, but we ourselves have grown significantly stronger, right? And whenever you have a situation like that, if you're hitting damage cap with, say, Cecil, right? And you know, this Trials of Reckoning right now is a great example. My Cecil is hitting damage cap because he is chaining with other light slash units. He's slow, so he's always going to be attacking second or third. So I could actually put the Mythgraven Blade on Cecil instead of the Sword of Light weapon, right? I could potentially take off an AP generation TMR that Cecil might have on him because he's so slow. And I could just have him use the Mythgraven Blade and maybe a buff on the party, right? I could focus him on other aspects of buffing and buffing damage because he's not going to get through all of his AP. Maybe you're going to be able to AP tune the combat to the point where it's just going to come out perfectly, right? We talk a lot about agility tuning in PvE content, and very rarely have we reached a point where we have actually talked about AP tuning. And AP tuning is something that we actually did when we were doing my video for Trials of Reckoning this tier, because we had Rosa, we had El Sorel, we had Cecil, we had Lucio, right? We had Ildira, and we were kind of trying to figure out, you know, how do we buff all of them? How many attacks is each unit going to take? And we actually found out that El Sorel only attacks twice, right? So if you put Rob's armor on her and she uses Keen Blade, she will actually have enough AP from that to use Drain Rush twice, so she doesn't need to have an AP generation TMR. Now, again, you could easily do this with, say, Cecil, for example, in another Trials of Reckoning. You could do it with any sword-wielding unit in another Trials of Reckoning. There's very, good situations where this weapon could actually be extremely viable. And again, damage cap is going up, right? Not the actual damage cap, but the amount of damage that we can deal is going to go up with double VCs. Old units are getting new mastery abilities. So if you are a mid-tier player, if you are a higher end player, this weapon is going to be absolutely a must-have. And you may even say you want 2 of them. I think going for 2 might be a little overkill. I think with the amount of AP generation that we currently have in the game, we may not need to actually have 2 of these. But it's one of those situations where when you don't need it, you desperately want it. And I think it may, if you're wanting to play it safe, be a good idea to go for 2 of these. Now, I think about 3 stars in comparison to this. And again, if you don't know what 3 stars is another piece of gear with decreased AP consumption 20. And I think about, how much I wish I would have had multiple copies of 3 stars. I'm just going to say, get 2 of these if you can. If you can't get 2 of them, get 1 of them, because this is a sword that's only going to get better into the future. This is a sword where, yeah, it's okay right now. In the future, though, all it takes is a sword wielding unit, right, with really high damage capacity. And I mean, we have a lot of those. We have like Thunder God Sid, you guys, to come. And this is going to be a very relevant piece of gear, especially in the PvE market. Now, let's take a look at the units that can equip it. And the units that can equip it are units that you would traditionally see potentially soloing content, right? So Dwayne potentially is a very powerful unit for soloing content. Dwayne, though, does run out of AP. So this would be a great option for a solo Dwayne composition. Halloween Frederica, another good option. Cecil, of course, I just talked about with the current Trials of Reckoning. Gilgamesh, I would say you don't see Gilgamesh used to solo a lot of content. You don't see similarly Fryevia or Howlet, but definitely, even Lucio. Lucio's one of those units who, again, is only going to get stronger and is actually really strong currently right now. I could see a world where Lucio is maybe potentially soloing something. Noctis, who is very AP heavy, this could be a really good way to reduce the AP that Noctis uses. You're not going to use the sword with a lot of magic users, right? You're not going to use it with Miranda. I mean, maybe you do, but most of the units that can equip this sword, like Red Mages and Spellblade, they can also equip 3 stars. Elena is another great example. I don't think you would ever use this sword on Elena. Elena can equip 3 stars. She has her own sword. She has, Sword of Light. Most of the time, that's going to be better. Elena would also be a case where you probably don't want to actually put this on if you are trying to solo content, if you're trying to maximize damage, because you do have to consider Sword of Light might be better depending if you do have 3 stars, because she does do so many multi-hit attacks. So, multi-hit attacks are usually not capping damage, so it could be possible, depending on where she's at, because she's fast, that she's going to be opening up the chain. So you may want to consider that. Titus as well is going to be a really good option. I always run out of AP on my Titus, and it drives me bonkers. Water also doesn't have a really good water sword. Yes, there's Brotherhood, but I mean, there's really not a good solid water sword that they can use. So this is going to be, for Titus, I don't even think there's any other water unit really besides Titus that's going to truly benefit from this. But yeah, it's going to be, overall just pretty good. Zazan as well. I hope I've just made the case for Mythgraven Blade to you guys. I'm curious what you all think down in the comments down below. I didn't think I would be making a video like this. Honestly, I thought, people were just going to be building it no matter what. But it was really clear in my last stream that there was a lot of confusion about Mythgraven Blade. So I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day, and catch you guys next time.